the volume that's available is going to shrink. And I think once it's placed on the shelf, it's not going to stay there real long. So a little bit of the timing of, do you come in 5 minutes after the truck was unloaded, so to speak, versus 12 hours after it was unloaded will start to matter a little more. There's not a shortage of the ability to produce it. And in many ways, I think this is a short term. I mean, I'm thinking weeks, not months.
This is going to ripple through livestock industries for a long time. I mean, the rest of the year and more. I think the average purchaser is going to notice it. I suspect too that consumers will know that in the meat case at their store, there won't be as much as normal or as they used to see. You'll see parts of the meat case where there's less there. You'll see parts of the meat case probably where they'll spread out the product so it looks full. In terms of the animals produced, we've got ample supplies, huge supplies. The bottleneck is in packing and processing. What that means is higher prices for consumers.
People will be priced out of the products, others will not. Just as an analyst, I would say it is possible that some of these price increases will be slow and phased in and not fully passed on, and that will mitigate some of those effects that consumers see. Items like bacon and ground beef are sort of common staples the average American consumer is very comfortable with. Ground beef is a very versatile ingredient into lots of meals. It's not just a hamburger patty, which you can consume it that way, of course, but you can use it as an ingredient in lots of things. I suspect that comfort with that item and the comfort with bacon as well will make them desired by the average person that leads to them chasing them more, so to speak. I don't anticipate pork roast, beef roast, tongue, other items that are less popular but do come from the same supply system to be run up as much because I don't think they're as desired. I expect flavored wings to be harder to get your hands on regularly than plain boneless chicken breast. I expect high-end, extra production practice claims, so whether that's organic, grass-fed, whatever the extra claim is on a ground beef package, as opposed to traditional just 80-20, 80% lean, 20% fat, to be harder.
Nobody knows how the workers are going to respond to a request to come back to work. And until somebody tries to reopen a plant and get that to happen, we really can't say. You can't force people to do anything. And the unemployment benefits right now are pretty generous. And so by my calculation, you might be better off being redundant, laid off from a plant than you would be if you went back to work. So there'll be a tension between the owners of the plants who want to operate and the workers who want to be redundant, on redundancy.
I think this announcement just reaffirms how important a well-functioning and flowing meat and livestock system is in America, and at least in rural America. Those sectors have big spillover effects over onto the row crop economy where they buy their feedstuffs, onto rural banks, frankly onto K through 12 education because property taxes drive those funds.
If things that we kind of rely on as staples, even if they're not strictly necessary for survival like meat, if we don't have access to that, people will be very upset. If there are shortages, they'll resonate. And so I think in terms of the executive order, what that's basically a recognition of is that this is the kind of thing that could have serious political consequences. And if you want to convince the public that the pandemic is under control, you don't want them having some sort of thing they experience very directly. Many of the workers who have gotten severely ill with coronavirus have said that they kept working because they needed the money. They kept working because they expressed concerns to plant supervisors who said that they're desperately needed on the line, which they probably are. And so these are people who are both vulnerable to coronavirus as well as feel external pressure to keep working because they might not be in a strong financial situation. Many of them are undocumented or have difficulty accessing government services and public health services. And so it's a population that's both at risk but also feels pressure to keep working. And I think that's a very dangerous combination. But on the line, people work very close together. And so if we think about how to address that, well, we spread them out more. But of course, if we spread them out more, your options are lower line speed, and that means lower production, or pushing the workers that remain harder and harder. And so that's another way that there aren't easy answers here.